I'm not really an innkeeper, I just have a really large house, and during the census it got filled really quickly with my relatives. The whole of Bethlehem was bursting at the seams. And then you two showed up, and there wasn't a square inch on the floor for you to house a bed.
I know, it was all getting a bit desperate. I've been having pains for half a day.
I thought you were going to have the baby out on the road.
I didn't. I knew that God would have a plan.
You did seem to be the only calm one.
Not true. Your wife Anna was amazing.
Yeah, she does have her moments, and she's pretty good with babies, and she's delivered quite a lot of them.
Well, I was glad she was there. Wasn't she the one who told us to camp out with the animals?
Which was a great idea. Out of the wind, plenty of straw. I think we had more room than anyone else in the house.
You always see things in a positive light. It was horribly dark. It was cramped. The goats were exceedingly smelly, and Great Uncle James's donkey kept trying to eat Jesus' bedding.
He was sort of looming over us with his big long ears. I checked the tether more times than I care to remember.
And then you started to get those strange visitors?
The shepherds were funny.
Oh, they gave me a start, peering in and mumbling and shuffling their feet around.
I think that was them dancing for joy.
Oh.
I don't believe everything they said. They are shepherds.
I did. Joseph and I had both been visited by angels, so why not a sky full of them, singing God's praises? We knew that our boy, Jesus, was special.
And he was God's son.
And I suppose you weren't surprised when the wise men showed up. Couldn't fit the camels into the stall though, they were way too tall.
Not really surprised, but the presents were a bit of a shock. Gold and frankincense and myrrh, worth an absolute fortune.
Yes, but again, God's provision for us. For when we needed to flee to Egypt, we had enough money to set up a new life.
And it was a good job that you're around when you did. Because Herod, the king at the time, had ordered all the children, all the boys under the age of 2, to be murdered. He wasn't risking the existence of another king, even if it was just a small boy. We did everything we could to save as many as we could. But what Herod did was unforgivable. He is such an evil man.
Thank you so much for helping us. We'll never forget your kindness. Your part in this amazing story.
I wonder what good Jesus will grow up to do.
It took me years to get over the murder of those children in Bethlehem by King Herod. But seeing Mary and Joseph on their way back from Egypt with their beautiful son, and by then a couple of other of their children, that helped me heal a little. They kept saying that Jesus was God's son, that he was important. But to me back then, he was just an ordinary boy. Of course, he didn't start teaching and preaching publicly until he was 30. And by then, Joseph had died. One of his younger brothers had taken over the carpentry business. Jesus began to get well known, which didn't really go down very well with his family always. We told Mary that she ought to get him back under control, but it was too late, because not long after that, he was executed. Turned out he'd made some really powerful enemies. And that was that, or so I thought, except not long after his death, Mary came to see me. She wanted to explain to the family what had really happened. Only while I was with her and a bunch of his friends, Jesus actually turned up. He'd definitely been killed by the Romans, yet I saw him sitting in my house eating lamb stew. He thanked me for the use of the animal shelter and the manger all those years ago, said it had all been part of God's plan, and that I could find forgiveness and peace. Once I decided I wasn't imagining these things, I said I'd really like that. So now everything's different for me. I'm the oldest man in Bethlehem by quite a long way. I wish I'd understood earlier who he was. But now, when I die, I'll meet God with Jesus by my side. And I'm not worried anymore. Sometimes I'm actually quite looking forward to it.